It has come to my attention that it is the time of the year again where motivation drops to an all-time low. It gets dark by 5 p.m. And if you're not on top of your shit, then it's going to destroy you. Winter is coming. It is cold. It is dark. It is depressing if you frame it that way. And I say this because exactly around 1 year ago, I was in this same exact situation, and I felt myself falling into the victim mentality of, you know, my external world around me was affecting my internal state. And I would blame all of these things, you know, circumstances, events, living in the college dorms, didn't really fit in with anyone there, wasn't alike with that kind of whole scene, with the drinking scene, the partying scene. And so naturally I would not have anyone to really build myself with and have that sort of deep connection with. And so this was one of the darkest, most loneliest times in my life, but it was absolutely necessary for the character development. And here's the funny thing about God is that he never minces his words, and everything that happens for a reason, to build you into who you are, if you perceive it that way. You can choose to perceive it a different way. You can perceive, why are all these things happening to me? But you're only feeding that negative energy more and more and more. And however you perceive anything is how it is, because your consciousness is reality. Okay? And so I was kind of thinking about this because it was reminding me, you know, the days are getting shorter, it's getting colder, winter is coming. And so it brought me back to this state, and I was thinking about how much I've learned since then, and how I would speak to my younger self, speak to that version of myself, or anyone struggling going through the same scenario. And it all boils down to this one universal truth, is that everything is cause and effect. And the more you can understand this and extrapolate it to every single scenario, every circumstance, everything that happens to you, the more you can take brutal accountability for your situation you are currently in and reshape it. And this isn't about creating a new reality or, you know, trying to out hustle and do all these things. It's actually just all about you. It always has been. Every single thing that you desire physically, which is the human definition of having, is to physically possess. And so if that is what you desire, you need to look within, and it already exists within you. You're just working. This whole self-improvement thing, this whole journey, is to reveal that creation that has been within you since you existed. And so more specifically, what you need to understand is that your current reality that you're currently experiencing, think about it like a VR headset. You know how people say that reality could be a simulation and all these things, and very well could be, who knows. But I want, for the sake of an analogy, to think about it as if you were wearing a VR headset and everything that you experience feels real, and you can even feel emotions when you're in a headset and you're seeing all these things. You're feeling emotions, you're having thoughts, and you're seeing everything around you. Think about your consciousness the same way. And you can choose how you perceive things, you can choose the thoughts you feed yourself, you can choose the emotions you feel to a certain degree. And all that manifestation, or any of these fancy terms, really means is adjusting yourself internally, not externally, not trying to chase more money, chase girls, chase success, chase whatever, your physique. It's actually about internally shifting so that you are no longer emotionally dependent on seeing physical reality change. You must realize that there are 3 planes of existence, and I would say 99% of people only exist within the physical plane. There's a physical mental, and spiritual plane of existence. Okay? And the whole goal, the whole aim is to align all three. That is the only way you will ever change your life. Okay? I can think back to a time where I would try and pick up more jobs. I was working more than I ever had, working almost every day, 8-hour shifts, trying to make more money, and you wonder why you can't make more money or you're still struggling financially. It's because I was only thinking on the physical plane. What is some physical action I can take? But that's not, you see, that's where I went wrong, is you must align mentally and spiritually before you do any physical task. And so what I will say is that back to the cause and effect, more specifically, the realm of cause is within your subconscious mind and in the mental plane. Okay, understand this. Every single thing that you are currently experiencing is an effect. So don't look at the effect. Don't try to change the effect of your internal state. You must look within your internal state and adjust the cause. Okay? If your effect is that you're unfit, well then the cause is that you are acting as someone who is unfit. You're thinking like someone who is unfit. You have emotions. You're emotionally dependent on seeing change, okay? I didn't get in crazy shape by constantly checking the scale, constantly being obsessed with looking at my body. I just assumed. I just already knew, I was 110 pounds wearing tank tops and stringers, 110 pounds in the gym, looking ridiculous, but that's because I internally knew that I was someone who was fit. I was prioritizing my health. I was hitting the weights harder and more intense every single session until eventually, remember, that reality catches up. It's a lagging effect almost. So change your internal state first, and then the physical things that you see, the physical materialization of your desires will start to show up as an effect, right? And so if you're unfit, it is because of the cause in your subconscious mind, which is anything and everything that you consume and you think and you feel and you're unconscious of it. That is the cause of why you are unfit. Because you're not actually aligned with the fit version of yourself. You're not thinking, you're not emotionally in tune with the person, that version of you that already exists in the infinite parallel multiverse. You are not aligned with that version of yourself. Same can be said about financially. Same can be said about any of this. And remember that nothing changes if nothing changes. Okay? It's as simple as that. Again, back to when I was in college, I would think about when I was in college, I would go out, smoke, and it was a habitual subconscious routine where I would get together with my buddies, we'd smoke a couple joints, get high and have fun, and that was like a routine. It was just a given. And then this is the thing, is that your old frequency, that old habit, that old frequency that you shouldn't be doing, but you're doing it anyways, it'll reveal itself in different little ways. Okay, it might not be the exact same scenario, like the same exact frames that I'm seeing. That was over in, across the state, and I was doing it in a specific woods, I remember, in this college campus. Okay? So you could say, oh, well, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not hanging out with those guys. I'm not smoking with these, and that was that long ago. Okay, but then realize that more recently, I was realizing that, I'm still doing the same thing. I'm still going out and I'm smoking with my buddies every time we get together. It's the same exact habits, but it looks a different way. So it tricks your little brain into thinking, oh, well, it's not the same exactly, but it is. It's the same habit, the same idea and concept. I'm getting high with my buddies as a pastime. So nothing changes if nothing changes. And if you're feeding yourself the same thoughts, feeding yourself, you're emotionally dependent on, oh, I just want to see it change. I'm going to give up. That is why you're failing, because you are giving up and you're putting fear over faith. And fear is the inverse of faith. All faith is trusting, and not trusting, but knowing. Knowing that everything will work out for you despite what physical reality is showing you. You must take yourself to a place greater than the physical surroundings. Something within. We are all microcosms of the universe, and we're all reflecting the universe. Okay? Every single one of us. So what you must realize is that everything, again, I've said this multiple times, but everything in your current reality is nothing more than a reflection of your internal state, your consciousness, your thoughts, and your emotions on a daily basis. And it's like the gym, okay? The gym taught me a lot of things. I didn't really realize it at first, but the reason I'm doing what I'm doing now is because of the gym, and it taught me so many deep lessons about life. You know, it's not just about getting the, muscles and the looking good and trying to impress other people. It's actually, for me, was always about the mind. You know, the pain that you must endure, the consistency, doing the discipline, the action, but also the alignment between, knowing that you will get to that dream physique. It is a very simple concept, but it is not easy, okay? The same way that you're in the gym and you're training your muscles, you must also train your mind, train your thoughts. And one of the most relieving things to realize is actually that you have complete control over your thoughts and your emotions. I can't stand when people act like they're such victims of their own mind and their own habits and emotions. Stop sabotaging yourself. Your mind keeps track of every time. If you want to create your own reality, you want to create all of these things you desire, the first thing you need to do, well, probably is to become aware of it. But secondly, is building trust with yourself. Most of you don't trust yourselves. How can you trust that you can create reality if you can't even trust yourself? So every time that you have these things, you have these goals, you say, more importantly, that I shouldn't do, there's all these things you shouldn't be doing, but you do them anyways. Your brain keeps track of that. So it tells yourself, oh, well, you don't listen to yourself. You disrespect yourself all day long. You tell yourself every night you're going to get up early and you don't do it. And it keeps track. Even if you're not conscious, it'll keep track. But also, everything has a polarity and an opposite. If you do the things that you set out and you write out your goals, small or big, you could just be reading 5 pages of a book a day. It could be doing a meditation. It could be making this amount of money. It could be bigger goals. But when you do those, then you also your brain keeps track of that. And the more and more, it's a constant trial almost. And the more evidence that you can compile for yourself winning, then your brain trusts yourself. And it allows yourself to have conviction, which is the most important thing when you want to create anything. You must have conviction, which is an unwavering knowing, not trusting. It starts with the trust with yourself, but then you extrapolate that then to knowing. Okay, when you flip a light switch, do you trust that it'll work? Do you trust that when you flip it on, it'll turn the light on? Or do you know? It's the same way with your goals. You must know. There is no trusting that it'll work out. There is no trust the process, because trust implies that there's a chance that it might not work, right? You must have an absolute conviction over your goals. And when you wake up every day, you must earn that respect, earn that feeling of, I know it's going to work out because I'm doing literally everything I tell myself to do. And it's a lot of people like to overcomplicate the shit out of it and make it so hard on themselves, but it really is as simple as reverse engineering. What is that version of me doing right now in a parallel universe? Let's say you want to be Millionaire. Okay, what is that? What is a millionaire doing right now? What is his habits? How does he conduct himself? What are his thoughts that he allows and the master within him that he does? What does that look like? Okay, it's these few things. If I want to start this business, I must perform these tasks every day, and I must, for fitness, I must do these, eat these meals every day, stick to my macros on plan. I must train fighting if I want to be capable of some sort of combat sport and violence. I must also educate myself. The camera keeps dying because it says that it is too hot on my dashboard, but I thought I would share how beautiful, if you can see, this view is. It reminds me of how God is omnipresent and he is with us at every single moment. And God truly is within each and every one of us. And to cultivate God within you, you must cultivate your own self-mastery. And the cause of everything you are currently experiencing lies within your subconscious mind. And I don't understand how people have control over only one thing. God only gave us control over one thing in this simulation, in this universe, in reality, and that is the control over your own thoughts. You can't control the effects directly, what the effects are right now, no matter how messed up your life is. But what you can have control over is your own thoughts. Okay, it's really not that hard. Whenever you catch yourself thinking any sort of negative thought, any limiting belief, I can't do that, I can't, I don't have the skills necessary, I wasn't born to be like that. Just realize that any little limiting belief, you are infinite, and any limiting belief is just a form of the devil, of the ego, of the flesh, trying to mess with you. And so you must remember that God always prevails over evil. And whatever you want to do, you can do it. And this isn't just to be inspirational. I'm telling you because it connects to my personal story, and I've seen it firsthand. It has only been a year since then, and I do not feel depressed. I do not feel like a victim. I completely understand everything is my fault. Everything has a cause, and I can look back and analyze, reflect on my own life, and say that, you know what? The reason why I don't have the physical things that I want right now is a direct correlation between the cause. So with that, I hope you boys have a blessed rest of your day. We're gonna get back to more of these videos coming every single week. We're gonna do these raw talks, we're gonna do vlogs, we're gonna do education, of course, on the whiteboard. So stay tuned, subscribe. We're here to take over, not to take part.